So we have somebody who already has a hand up, area code 808. You're in the air. Who do we have? How can we support you?
Aloha, Tim. It's Jamuna. How are you?
I'm doing well. Long time no hear from you.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's a good thing. I don't know. But, you know, I wanted to go through maybe a worksheet or a process with you about what seems to be, I know I've done this before, it's a different neighbor, but a neighbor that seems to be mad at me, like, almost like unnecessarily, like, angry at me. And I don't know, it's bringing up a lot of anxiety in me, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of, like, what did I do wrong? And I think it would be helpful to look at this.
That's the kind of thing that the worksheets are most useful for, so that sounds like a good idea. What's the, where do you want to begin?
Let's see. I need to find the right worksheet. Where's the worksheet? I guess, why is my neighbor mad at me? And it seems like they don't want to forgive me. Is that a way? I don't know.
Well, so I have a worksheet here that is a 7-step worksheet that is from 2017. And it says, in this case, we'd put your name in it, I, Jamuna. And what's the emotion that you're feeling when you have the thought that my neighbor is angry at me and doesn't want to forgive me? What emotion are you generating for this worksheet process?
I feel like anxiety. But.
Okay. And what's the thought that you're using to generate the anxiety?
You know, kind of like, why are they purposely being mean to me?
So what are you afraid is going to happen if this doesn't get resolved, or if they continue to be angry at you?
I guess there's always going to be conflict.
Okay. So are you using a thought like, I'm not safe?
No.
Okay.
More
what
like,
is the thought you're using?
Okay. More like victim, like, why is this happening to me? Why can't he
All right, but a question like that would generate confusion, right? If I just keep sitting asking, why is this happening, I would generate the emotion of confusion. You're saying you're generating anxiety or fear. What's the anxiety or fear about? What thought are you using to generate anxiety or fear? What's the negative consequence that you think, or the negative eventuality that's going to happen if the situation goes unresolved?
That's a good one. I guess I just feel like I'm not good enough. I'm never going to live up. I made a mistake and it's not forgivable, or
Okay, and so what's the negative consequence that's going to happen if you're never forgiven, if you never make it up?
I'll always be seen as something I'm not. I don't know. Like I want to, like, there's part of me that wants to be like, wants them to see my point of view, or wants them to, you know, I want to be right. I'm going to be honest there. Like, and it's like, why do they keep on choosing to be mad? So, does that answer your question? I don't know.
Well, you're getting there, right? So,
okay.
What are you afraid is going to happen if they stay mad? Because right now they're mad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
nothing horrible is happening, right? You're safe,
No,
you're
nothing
alive,
horrible
you're here on the phone. Pardon me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has said some things that aren't true to me, about me, but, you know, in a way I feel like they're just, I don't know, trying to be mean, like, I don't know.
Okay, so I'm
I'm
trying to help you figure out what you're using to generate anxiety, what thought you're using to generate anxiety or fear. Because when we're generating anxiety or fear, somehow we're creating a belief that we're not safe.
Maybe anxiety is not the right word. All I know is that I feel just a lot of like emotion in my heart, like anxiety, like as if you had too much caffeine, like that kind of feeling. Or I just feel like what is wrong with me? Like why? Like I'm not sure if that.
Okay, so historically, what has happened in your life when someone has stayed mad at you?
Nothing really.
Do they attack you? Do they beat you up? Do they isolate from you? Do you end up isolated and lonely?
Well, what happened in the past is there was a family member that, used it to spread lies about me, like to make it seem like I'm this horrible person,
And the result of them spreading lies about you was what?
My family members joined in on it.
And they believed the lie?
Yeah, they believed it, they pretty much judged me
And then when they believed the lie and they judged you, what did they do? Did they attack you or did they isolate from you?
Isolate, like block me from Facebook or, isolate.
Okay, so the fear is probably around the idea that you're going to get isolated. So the thought that you're probably using to generate the anxiety is, this isn't going to go well, I'm going to get isolated, I'm going to be alone. Does that make sense? Does that resonate?
Yeah, it does in a way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So the thought you're using to generate anxiety is, I'm going to be isolated and alone. Right? If you might have the full thought that if people believe my neighbor's lies, I'm going to be left with no friends. If you have that thought, do you generate anxiety?
That, or also my resident manager might believe something about me and want to kick me out. Who knows?
All right, so if people believe these lies, I'm writing, so that's why I'm pausing. If people believe these lies, I may end up alone and homeless.
Yeah. That. But then also there's this deep thing, like, what is wrong with me? Like, why?
All right, that's another worksheet. That's another worksheet.
Okay.
Right? And you can make a note of that because it just came up. So on another sheet of paper or on the back of this one,
Okay.
But again, when you have a question like, what is wrong with me, or I can't figure this out, the emotion that's going to generate is confusion, not anxiety or anger.
Maybe I am confused.
So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That would be a different worksheet.
Okay.
And that's fine, but that's not this worksheet. So let's stick to this one.
Okay. Okay.
So now we have, I, Jamuna, who am love, am experiencing the energy of, or the emotion of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to remind myself in the worksheet that hostility and fear come from internal corrupt data, and they indicate my mind's use of sustained incoherence, which means my mind engages a process that creates my pain and then thinks it's going to get out of its pain by doing the same thing over and over again, trying to think its way through this.
Yeah.
And my denial, my denial is that I think I'm not causing this, my neighbor is. That's what my denial is, that I'm the denial about how I'm the one creating my own emotions. And that process of denial replaces my experience of myself directly as being love and loving, and tells me the lie that someone or something outside of me is creating my upset. In this case, it's your neighbor being angry about you and telling lies or telling things that aren't true.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And so your upset level, how strong would you say your anxiety is to begin this worksheet?
10. 10. Yeah.
Okay, it's pretty strong. We'll put a 10 on there. And then the truth is, only my thoughts cause my emotional upset. So I take a nice centering, calming breath, and I wrote in here that the thought I'm using to create my own emotion of anxiety is, if people believe these lies, I may end up alone and homeless.
Okay.
And so then the next question on the worksheet is, are you aware of punishment thoughts for this neighbor?
Yeah. He's an asshole.
All right. What are your punishment thoughts for your neighbor?
He's an asshole.
Right. So your punishment thoughts are to call him names, right?
Yeah.
You want to yell at him and call him names?
Or, think bad things, but I've been trying not to.
Okay, but for the purpose of this worksheet, we just want to be as honest as we can about what our punishment thoughts are. And do you have punishment thoughts for yourself?
I guess so, because, I think, why? Why did I even help him? He's mean. What's wrong with me? Why did I need to make this mistake or something? Those kind of thoughts.
Okay, so the punishment thought is, it's my fault. Right?
Yeah.
I never should have helped, etc. It's my fault.
Yeah, it's my fault. Yeah.
So then the worksheet says, remember that if I'm in pain, my thinking is in error. And the worksheet also says, if they're the one with the problem, why am I the one with the pain? So as I remind myself of those two things and take a breath, then we move down to step number 2, which says, I choose to honor truth and willingly face and process out all of the dis-ease producing energies for and from all of my relations and all of the generations. And I willingly go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing. So if you have a worksheet you're working through, put a check mark in those boxes and take a nice calming breath for each one of those. And then it says, I'm going to release and surrender myself, my emotion of anxiety, my neighbor, my story that they are telling lies about me, my punishment thoughts, and my thought that if people believe these lies, I may end up alone and homeless. Take a breath. If you have a worksheet there, put your initials in that little box. And then step 3 says, my desire the constructive result, the exact goal that drives my pain perception is that what? What's the goal that, if it could magically happen here, would make this worksheet completely unnecessary?
That he would start talking to me again and forgive me.
All right. And earlier you said something about you being right and having him believe you. Is that important to put in here?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, you're right.
All right. So your desire is for him to believe you?
Yeah. To believe me.
And start talking to you.
Yeah. And then maybe also like squashing the whole thing, you know.
Well, then it would be, and admit the truth.
Okay.
Right? If he or she's been spreading lies, you want them to admit the truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if this were to happen, if this person were to turn around and start to believe you and start talking to you and admit the truth, would that take care of this worksheet? Would it dismantle the energies you're using to create your upset and anxiety?
I would say so.
Okay. So that means you've got a good goal there. So then there's a little thing on the side that says, I cancel my need to be right, and I cancel my need to make up another story out of these brain cells, or what's happened and what I've believed about what's happened, so that I can hallucinate the proof that my fear and my hostility-based story, my reality, is true. I'm going to cancel my need to be right and cancel my need to make up another story to prove I'm right, and to prove that what I'm generating as a fearful reality is true. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. And then step 4 says, I choose to be aware of my essence as love. And when I do, that stirs the love in everyone involved. And in step 4, we ask people to go into a little meditation, breathe comfortably. I suggest that people put their hand over their heart space. And just think about the most loving, safe, happy, connected memory from any time in your life. And breathe into it. It can be from the recent or distant past. And just breathe into it until you feel a shift in your energy, away from this anxiety and all of the thoughts and energies around the neighbor and the upset. Breathe into safe, happy, joyful memories until you feel your energy shift. And when that happens, take a nice, deep, cleansing breath and let it all go, and tell me that you've had a shift in your energy so we can move on.
Okay.
Have you got it? Have you had a shift? Are you feeling that loving energy, that safe, happy, contented energy?
Yeah.
All right, so we move on to number 5, which is when I'm upset, my perception is built out of corrupt data. It's driven by my goal in number 3, in this case, my goal for this person to believe me and start talking to me and admits the truth. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But that goal creates a picture in my mind that's a limiting picture created from a maximum of 9 bits of data during the period of time that there's probably 10,000 brain cells firing. And in that same period of time, there's probably 20 trillion bits of data hitting my senses. So it's a really limiting picture. It's very limited and limiting. So I'm going to choose to collapse my mind's lies, right? By holding love conscious, active, and present, and canceling my goal for this person to believe me. I'm writing it in here in number 5A. Believe me, talk to me, and admit the truth. And if you write that in your worksheet on that line where it says to cancel, and then take a breath. And then 5B says, I want to invite something other than my conscious logical mind to assist me here. So who or what do you want to invite to assist you to process this out?
Ruka de Kusha.
All right, so you're going to invite Ruka to incline you towards healing, to restore you to your awareness of your newborn essence as love, to heal your denial, and heal your capacity to generate the emotion of anxiety, and ask it to help you open a direct conscious relationship with and gently remove whatever's been denied and dissociated, and those projected parts of your carbon-based memory. And now we ask people to do another meditation. We ask people to close their eyes, put the pen down, put your hand over your heart space if you like to do that, and just gently, silently inside your own mind, repeat what I'm going to say out loud. I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself. I specifically cancel my goal in this worksheet. I put my conscious, logical mind on the shelf for now, and I ask to be shown the hidden part of my own mind that's actually creating this upset. And then you just want to be breathing and softening, putting yourself in the most open, allowing space you can. And gently repeat, I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself. I specifically cancel the goal in this worksheet, and I ask to be shown the hidden part of my own mind that's actually creating my tension and upset. And then just breathe and soften, and trust that anything that comes into your awareness is going to be part of what you need to see to begin to heal here and move forward. It's all old stuff. If it's showing up in your brain right now, it's just nerves firing in your brain. It's not happening anywhere except in your mind right now. It's an echo, it's a memory. It's safe for you to study it up close as it washes over you, so you can remember sights, sounds, smells. If a time comes to you, a memory comes to you from an earlier time in your life, go with it and notice, where are you? How old are you? Who else is there and what's happening? And just breathe and soften as you gently repeat, I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself. And I ask to be shown the hidden part of my own mind that's actually creating anxiety in this situation. And stay with that, breathing, softening, until one of three things happens. Either you get a deep insight, or you notice that the energy of anxiety just shifts and fades away, or you realize that your mind is just going to spin and go nowhere right now. And when one of those three things happens, take a nice, deep, cleansing breath, slowly let it all go, and then scan your body and notice, what's the strongest emotion or the strongest physical sensation that you're aware of right now? And And that's what you would write on 6A.
Okay. My heart. Yeah.
What are you feeling in your heart?
Panic, like almost like, you know, when you have like a closed heart, like it wants to close, like it feels like it resistant.
So that's what I would write in 6A. A panic, a feeling in my heart.
Okay.
And then, is that as much of an emotion as it is a physical sensation, or is it more a physical sensation?
More physical sensation.
Okay. And what emotion would you say goes with that?
Sadness, grief.
Okay. I would also make a note of that. So breathe and soften, and you're aware of this feeling in your heart and sadness and grief. And did you get an image? Did you have some memory of a previous time in your life?
Yeah, two. Very, very
Okay.
strongly, very quickly.
Okay, what were those?
Yeah.
Just briefly, just to give us a tag for it.
Okay, when I was drunk one time, I punched an ex-boyfriend, and then when a friend in high school just turned on me out of nowhere and kind of like betrayed me.
So how old were you in the situation where you got drunk and punched a boyfriend?
I was, 39?
And how old was the situation where the friend turned on you? Was that high school, you said?
Yeah, high school, so 17. Yeah.
And what did the friend do?
She just, like, said, I pretty much just used you, and, like, just said, you know, I just used you, like, and then just stopped talking to me.
Okay. So I would make notes about both of those. I would flip the page over if you have blank on the other side and make as many notes as you can about the details. What was happening around the time when you were 39 and you got drunk and punched a boyfriend? What was happening? Who else was around or who was aware that this friend turned on you in high school? Just whatever memories you can generate, because it's up right now. It's in your awareness, and there's been a reason, an emotionally based reason, for your mind to hide this from you for a lot of years. And there's a reason it's coming up right now. So just make as many notes as you can about any sights, sounds, smells, other people associated with it, other actions or activities around that time, so that they don't fly away as soon as you move on to a different set of thoughts.
Okay.
And whenever you're done making those notes, let me know and we'll move on with the worksheet.
Okay.
Are you done?
No, I'm still, no, just give me one more moment.
We have plenty of time. Take your time and just make sure that you get the notes down while it's still available.
Okay.
Just keep your breath moving as you're making these notes. And again, the reason for making the notes is to just put it on paper so it can't fly out of your awareness as easily. And let me know when you're ready to move on.
Okay.
Are those sounds of you breathing or holding your breath?
Breathing.
Okay. Do you have enough written so you can remember this?
Yes.
Okay. So then the next point is 6C. It says, I ask to be shown a time when I have not fulfilled living up to the goal that I have for my neighbor right now. So you ask to be shown a time when you haven't believed somebody, when you've cut them off and wouldn't talk to them, or when you had trouble admitting the truth. And maybe when you ask that, and you ask Spirit to make you aware of that, maybe a time or two pops into your mind, and you can make notes of it here. Maybe, as often happens with me when I do these worksheets, I just write, I ask Spirit to show me times when I have violated this goal. And you can, make a note for yourself. If any time pops into your mind where you weren't such a good friend, or you cut somebody off, or you wouldn't believe them.
This is great stuff.
And if those notes or those memories come to mind, you can put their initials on that line, or you can flip the page over and make some notes about it, because those would be additional good worksheets to do.
Yeah.
If you're still carrying any kind of upset about those times in the past where you did not live up to that goal that you have for your neighbor in this worksheet. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last part of the worksheet, 2 parts here. One of them says, I commit to love, to living a human life. And so to do that and help achieve it, I'm going to do a mass canceling of all the times I've ever wanted anybody to believe me and start talking to me and admit that they were wrong, or admit the truth. So take one of those nice, deep, comforting, calming breaths and say that. I commit to love. I commit to living a human life. And to help achieve that, I'm going to do a mass canceling of all the times I've ever wanted this goal from somebody in my life. And just breathe and soften and notice what energy flows for you.
I felt calm, like calm
Okay.
feeling.
Okay. And now, step 7, a principle of the universe is that by giving, I first get the original. So I'm going to practice gratitude. I'm going to say that I'm grateful for this opportunity to heal. I'm going to choose to love truth, honor truth in this situation. I'm going to choose perfect love. And I'm going to structure a loving goal, that something I will do to put me in a more loving state based on this interaction. And I would recommend that to really move this forward, you do 2 different worksheets, one on the incident of the boyfriend and one on the incident of the high school friend that turned on you.
Okay.
Are you willing to do that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm writing this down. Yeah.
The boyfriend that you punched and that situation where the high school friend turned on you.
Yeah. Okay.
And then put a check mark in that box and take another breath and scan your body and notice, how are you feeling now? How is the anxiety right now that you started this worksheet with that was at 10 out of 10?
It's like
How high would you rate? Okay, it's down to a 2. And then you get to decide whether you want to put a check mark in the box that says that was a successful worksheet.
I would say so.
All right. So then we're wide open for questions or comments.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I guess if anyone has a comment, I don't know.
Well, but I mean from you first. Do you have any questions or comments from me, or you want to make a comment about what this was like for you to step through this worksheet?
Well, one thing I would like to share is that it's just amazing how much the subconscious is so powerful and how it hides these things. And when when Yeshua says, when you're upset, what is it? I'm never upset for the reason I think. It's always something else.
Yeah, that's from the Course in Miracles.
Yeah, and then I'm definitely going to work on these worksheets. This is definitely something that needs to really. I said I'm going to call Dr. Tim today. I'm going to work through this. I'm going to, because the temptation is to get down to their level, even though we're all equal sons of God or, siblings. But then I'm like, no, I'm going to use this because there's something I need to heal. This isn't about my neighbor, it's about me. And I guess another thing is like, I guess, how would you, if someone's angry at you, a brother or sister, if you will, and do you just have compassion for them? Like, how do you have compassion for them?
Well, one of the things I use most often is this system of observation, right? So rather than believing one thing or another, I find it far more useful in my life to live from observation. So to be actively observing in the moment and observing as much as I can. And one of the things that I observe is that if there's anger coming out of me, it means there's pain, fear, or sadness in me that I don't either feel capable or willing to deal with internally.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm sitting here in my office feeling just so fortunate, it's a climate-controlled office, it's got beautiful pictures on the walls, I've got, this loving person, Jamuna, calling and working through a worksheet, and what a wonderful space in my life and my career to be in right now. If I'm sitting here with those thoughts and energies in me, it's not possible for anger or insult or swear words to come out of me, right? Because they're not in me. And so we observe over and over again that whatever comes out of my mouth is always and forever going to tell people more about what's going on inside me than it's ever going to tell anybody about the world around me. And if there's any kind of anger or irritation coming out of me, it means there's a pain, fear, or sadness in me that I don't feel capable or willing to deal with directly. So that's an observation I can apply to myself and I can apply to everybody in my world. And if I'm willing to apply that observation and I have somebody coming at me, and they're in anger, or they're in name-calling, or they're in swearing, I can just observe, oh, they must have pain, fear, or sadness running in them that they either feel incapable of or unwilling to process internally. And if I do that in my observation, it's a simple step to compassion.
Okay.
Another thing I use is one of the bottom line observations is in number 4 says, I can only control and be responsible for my own emotions and reactions. I cannot control or be responsible for the emotions and reactions of anybody else, no matter how hard I try. And that's just an observation we make. It's part of the 10 bottom line observations. Does that make sense to you?
It makes perfect sense. But I just knew that there's something I needed to look at, because I have, obviously, hostility and stuff going on inside me. So
right,
I have
but
stuff to heal.
now stick with me as we make this observation. That since I can only control and be responsible for my own emotions and reactions, and I can't control or be responsible for the emotions and reactions of anybody else, no matter how hard I try, what that means is no one's ever made me angry. No one's ever made me feel sad, scared, hurt, frustrated, or upset or offended in any way. And most people say, oh, no, that's not true. This guy's really making me angry. So then we come back to the observation again. And eventually we start to realize it is true that every human being creates their emotions internally by the interpretation they choose and place on whatever their senses are telling them about the flow of outside events. And so in that process, if I work to become actively observing that moment to moment, I wake up one day and realize, oh my gosh, I really am creating all of my own emotions. And there's a great liberty that comes with that. If I continue to make those observations, if I continue to do that work, I wake up one day in the not too distant future and I have a deeper realization, oh my gosh, I have never made anybody else angry or scared or hurt or offended. And that is a new level of liberty. And that frees me up to just send compassionate feelings and heartfelt blessings to the person who's coming at me with anger or with blame or name-calling. And so I can respond, I can choose the response that is a loving response, even in the face of this intense, unpleasant energy coming at me from someone else. So does that answer that kind of a question you had?
Yeah, it definitely
about
is.
Somebody else having anger towards you?
Yes, it definitely does. I know, like, he also said I'm too sensitive or something. And I'm like thinking in the back of my head, what does that mean? You're a total, at least that's, but I know that that's just his own incapability of his own stuff he needs to look at, I guess.
Well, it's judgment coming from another person, right? And in the way of mastery, in the third lesson, it reminds us that every time we judge, the very cellular structure in our body stops working properly. And it says to us, if we understood what happens every time we judge or we believe our perception that's resulting in tightness or tension or upset, then we would never judge again. So if someone is judging you one of the best things to do is breathe and soften and tap into times you have judged in the past and generate, open up some compassion within yourself, sensitivity in yourself for the fact that this brother or sister who's judging you is just doing something you've done many, many times, and it's coming from their pain, fear, and sadness. And so you can respond by extending your awareness of your true nature and their true nature and your loving energy in their direction.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to busy yourself with thoughts about who's right here, who's wrong here, what do I need to do to get this person to change. You can just move into compassion.
Yeah.
And then the energy that you're adding to the interaction between you and that person is entirely different. It's calm, it's centered, it's connected, it's compassionate, and the situation is bound to work out differently when that's the energy you're adding. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I'm just absorbing into my being. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any other comments or questions, or do you want to open it up to any comments from anybody on the call?
Well, I have one more, comment or question, and it's this. Let's say if I did something like, because the neighbor might be actually really mad at me for doing something that I shouldn't have done. And now I feel guilty. How do I...
Okay, so here's the way we would talk about that with good regulatory speech. The neighbor might be generating a lot of anger for his or her interpretation of something I actually did that I regret now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you hear the difference in those two statements?
Yeah.
The neighbor is not angry at you for something you did. The neighbor isn't having his or her anger caused by you any more than you're having your fear or deep sadness caused by someone or something outside of you.
Okay. Writing this down.
Does that make sense? So we would start there. And then Dr. Michael Rice has a whole series of things he talks about here where he says, look, instead of saying I'm sorry, which is making a statement that says I'm a sorry being and I'm less than true love expressing in form, let's talk about acknowledging what I did, that I now can say, I would do it differently if I were doing it today. I recognize that this was not coming from a space of love. This was coming from error on my part or whatever. And so I want to apologize, and I want to tell you what I'm going to do to try and ensure that this doesn't happen again. Now, I can do that. I can extend that loving response to a person, and they can still choose to generate bitterness and resentment and anger. Their emotions are not up to me. But I can go to someone that's been around or experienced me doing something that now as I look back on it, I say, you know what, I could have handled that better. I wish I had done this or that. And I can go to them and I can admit that I did this and that I see it as inappropriate, and I can apologize to them, and I can tell them, and whether you extend a pardon to me or not, I just want you to know that I recognize I did this, I don't like that I did this, and in the future I'm going to do this, this, or this to try and ensure this doesn't happen again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And sometimes when I do that, people line up and say, wow, that's great, thanks for admitting this, and thanks for being willing to work to make it different, and I'm glad to know you. I'm glad we're still friends. Or let's reinstitute a friendship if we had a disruption or if we've been estranged. And sometimes people are going to say, I don't care if you admit it or not, you're a jerk, you never should have done this, I don't want anything to do with you. And I have to let that be, because I don't have control over their choices any more than I have control over their emotions, any more than they have control over my choices or emotions.
Yeah.
I tell people that use the process of forgiveness soon and often, and pardon people soon and often. However, if someone's done something that you feel is significantly unpleasant or abusive to you, then it doesn't make any sense for you to trust that they won't do it again unless they've done 4 things. And those 4 things are, number 1, they admit that what they did was wrong. Number 2, they apologize in a way that you feel is sincere. Number 3, they make amends in whatever way possible. And number 4, they make concrete changes in their life to try and ensure that this doesn't happen again. Now, if someone has done something that I consider to be seriously wrong, and they haven't done all 4 of those things, I can still choose to trust them again. I can still choose to say, I pardon you for this. I can still choose to dismantle any negative emotional state or any perception I have that would help me generate negative emotional states in that process of forgiveness. But it doesn't make any sense for me to trust that they're not going to do this again. I can trust them. I can say, okay, I'll get in another business deal with you, or I'll go to some more, plan some more dinners out with you or whatever, or go to parties where you're going to be there, even though you did this horrific thing. I can do that because the trust that I give people is mine to give or withhold. It's like a gift. Just like pardoning is a gift I can give or withhold. And yet, to my mind, it doesn't make any logical sense for me to trust somebody won't do something again unless they've done all 4 of those things. Admitted with me, agreed with me that what they did was off the mark. Number 2, apologized in a way that I feel is sincere. Number 3, made amends in whatever way possible. If they broke my lamp, they pay for a new lamp or to get it repaired. If they insulted me in public, they make a public apology, etc. And number 4, they make concrete changes in their life to try and ensure that this pattern or behavior doesn't happen again. And so you can use that model to structure your own communications to people where you want to go back and admit that your behavior was off the mark and you're apologizing and you're trying to make amends so it doesn't happen again. Does that make sense?
Yes. Makes perfect sense.